Hey everybody, Josh RV Nerd here from Bishs RV. That is going to take me some getting used to say that here. In case you hadn't heard, it's not exactly industry news, which is what this video is focused on, but local news. We have officially joined the Bishs RV team. And first and foremost, I hope the fact that you're still seeing these videos come out, giving you that, good behind the scenes industry information, I hope it brings you a little bit of peace of mind, because there's been a lot of people who are really curious about that. Like, oh man, what happens? Is this, is the channel going to change? Well, you may have noticed the name of the channel's changed, but the content's going to remain the same. And actually, we're going to be able to expand and bring you some very exciting new things this year. But that's neither here nor there. That's just kind of related to this channel. What are we talking about today? As always, it seems to be a popular request. I have some information on pricing, and no, there's nothing wrong with my glove. I just can pop my thumb out so I can activate the little buttons on the camera. Pricing information, inventory flow, a very interesting news event that came out a couple weeks ago that I think boondockers specifically will really want to tune into. First quarter outlook in terms of show season, and then a whole bunch of predictions for this coming year. And as we go, do me a favor, if you have any thoughts, any curiosities, anything like that, leave me some comments. I'll do my best to kind of comb through them all here and give everybody some personal time and attention. And let's get started. All right, so first and foremost, pricing. Do we think it went up or down? I will give you 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count. There's an interesting trend I've noticed. I've been doing this about 13 years now, and I've got some people here who have been doing this basically before I was born, when I was in short pants. And same thing, we all see the same thing. Nobody knows why, but every year, when you flip the calendar and it becomes the next calendar year, there's a price increase from the manufacturers. We don't know why. There just is. I will say the pricing changes that we saw in December and January were definitely the smallest that we have seen through the entire year. That may speak on and be an indicator of a potential trend that I'll talk about when I'm talking about, seasonal outlook and predictions this year. And hopefully it's a small sign of some potential stability on the pricing front of the RV industry, which is, at this point, I think the best that we can hope for. So while not massive and roughly representing a couple $100 each, the December and January increases were still increases, times 2. So it maybe doesn't sound like much in the scheme of things. Like, you're looking at a trailer like this and it's, multiple thousands of dollars, multiple tens of thousands of dollars potentially. And you're like, a couple $100 more. Man, it adds up. It adds up fast, That's kind of how we got to where we're at after. Can we just level with one another and just say rampant runaway pricing increases last year? I mean, is that sounds fair to me. I don't know how better to describe them than that. Just like every month you're looking at the pricing sheets coming in going, no way. And yeah, they just kept coming in. Now, by the way, if you're noticing the bags under my eyes and whatnot here, if I seem a little glassy-eyed, I have a rip-roaring headache right now, and actually came in on my day off when we're closed to record this. I've had so much going on, I wanted to make sure I still got these industry updates out, especially this first one, as we change from a Haylett RV store to a Bishs RV store, to really help cement and solidify to everybody that, yes, these things will keep happening. I didn't want there to be a delay. I didn't want there to be anything weird or different or anything like that. So yeah, the updates obviously are going to continue. What about, though, industry? No, not industry. I'm telling you, my head is like splitting. Inventory flow. The build and arrival rate of new RVs. Well, I lost a little bit of visibility of that briefly that I'll be able to regain soon. As this store was approaching its changeover from the Haylett store to the Bishs store, we basically had to stop and cut off new RV arrivals for a little bit for accounting, banking purposes. There's, again, so many moving parts to that whole scenario. That's a big reason I didn't want the job. Pass. Hard pass. I enjoy just being my nerdy self, waving a camera around here with my chubby face and bags under my eyes. Probably. I don't know. The flow of inventory, though, overall nationally, what I'm seeing by kind of scouting a couple specific, like, dealer websites and seeing how many new additions they've had to their inventory, it seems like inventory flow arrival builds are going pretty strong. Talking to my manufacturing friends and contacts, there's still a couple key areas that are really kind of kneecapping and choke holding some of their RV production. It still seems to be two primary things in terms of physical components, and that is metal trim like skirt metal. Talked about that previously, so that's still happening. Probably largely due to the difficulty of acquiring aluminum due to things like magnesium shortages. The other one is soft goods like furniture, and mostly, again, because of foam. And that whole problem goes way back still to last year or earlier this year. I tell you, the last 2 years have only been 5 years long. I can't keep this stuff straight anymore. And there's definitely some serious gray starting to grow out in my beard with all the fun stress that I've had over the last couple years. Although, with this red beard that I have here, I call it, it's not, salt and pepper doesn't feel right, so I call it salt and cinnamon. But that goes all the way back to, I think earlier this year, last year, whenever this comes out, 2021, when the polar vortex hit Texas and took out the chemical plants, and then when Hurricane Ida shut down other chemical plants. We are still dealing with the butterfly ripple effect of that whole thing. But, greater than all of that, the biggest challenge facing getting materials to manufacturers to produce more RVs has actually been based on logistics. There have been numerous, we've talked a lot in the past about like port delays. That's still very much a thing. There's still a lot of container ships that are just sitting off the coast, not getting unloaded. There's still yards full of containers that either aren't unloaded or are empty, and we don't export enough to send them back out to make room to unload new containers. Like, those problems are still happening. But there's also an increase in trucking shortages, sometimes largely due to new legislation restricting the available physical fleet that can move stuff that actually does manage to get unloaded from containers, whether it's locally or cross-country. Like, that's becoming a greater problem, which is only exacerbating everything, that was almost the trend of 21. It's like, okay, let's take a problem. Now let's crank it up to 11. It's like, can't we just have one problem and deal with it? Can we not compound it, please? And that's what's happening with the trucking logistics thing. The other thing that is really starting to come to light is just logistics mismanagement, where, okay, there's not a whole lot of priority in like what's getting unloaded first, what was here first, what was here last. It's just, I don't know, that one's closer, go get that one. Like, doesn't seem to be a lot of rhyme or reason from what I am gathering in that regard. And if I'm wrong about any of this stuff, please leave me comments. Please let me know. This is just what I have heard. I'm not like an official reporter. I'm just relaying things that I've heard from the contacts that I have and the resources that I have to look into. If you folks have more information, man, let me know. The goal is to get the good stuff out there. Another one here that I'm really starting to become aware of is basically the domination of optimized shipping lanes by a couple big retailers. Specifically, Amazon and Walmart. Those two groups are big enough that basically they can say, we will pay you extra because we got deep pockets to make sure that our stuff, the ships that come in that have our stuff on it, get unloaded, that our containers get unloaded, that they get on the available trucks, and that they get to our stores. And so sorry about everybody else. I I don't know, like that. I understand how what I said and the way I said it just now sounds very like boycott Walmart, boycott Amazon. Like, that's not at all what I'm saying. That is just free market economy. That is just the way of the world. It's just annoying at the same time. Like, I can understand it and I can rationalize it. Doesn't mean I still have to like it, you know. But that is a major thing of what's going on. Like, we're you know, I can't get toilets on my parts shelf over here because Walmart has to get their My Buddy dolls on the My Buddy. I had a My Buddy growing up. You remember that song? My buddy, my buddy. So, whoa. Sorry, major squirrel moment. Let's keep moving. But one interesting, exciting, positive sign is that I've seen manufacturers finally, slowly, mind you, resume the prototyping, planning, even production of new floor plans. The last couple years, we've all kind of gotten pretty familiar, I think, with what's out there. And if you're, you know, new to shopping, maybe not for you, but if you've been kind of looking at RVs and watching stuff or shopping the last couple years, the layouts haven't really changed a lot. In a lot of cases, the features, the RVs haven't really changed in the last couple years, with very few exceptions. Like, Jayco's done a good job of continuing to really advance their product. A lot of other people have really stalled and stagnated and just said, our supply chains are sketchy enough as it is, let's not rock the boat. But I've started to notice, like recently, I don't know if you saw, I put out that little teaser on the very first 274 RKS Freedom Express. That model was originally planned and put on their website like a year and a half ago. And it just straight never happened because they couldn't build new stuff because they had such overwhelming backlogs for old stuff, for popular stuff, things like that, you know. I have seen where some manufacturers had like, okay, here's our active build list, here's our benched list, things that we're not canceling, we're not retiring, but we're just not building right now. They're on the bench. I've seen those lists, more RV floor plans leaving the bench list and rejoining the active production list. It's been slow, but I think by the end of fall 22, we'll see a full lineup basically resume and rejoin the RV industry with very few exceptions. Unrelated, totally unrelated. My older brother, Mr. Matt Haylett, he said, I don't want anyone calling it 2022 because that sounds like 2020 also, or again. Let's just call it 22 and be done with it. And as kind of paranoid as it sounds, I don't know that I disagree with him. And something I think that will be very exciting for a lot of people is that in 22, we are actually predicting that show season will be back with a vengeance. Yeah, that's right. I did that on purpose. You see the vengeance in the background. That was not an accident. Sorry. I'm just trying to keep myself engaged to wake up here. Last year, for several reasons, the two primary reasons was, one, I just don't think dealers had available inventory to take to shows. And two, various primarily COVID-related reasons were shutting a lot of shows, events, things like that down. I don't predict those two things will be major factors this year. Again, the inventory across the nation seems to be a lot healthier than it was. Again, we've really seen the last 2 years especially, we are one natural disaster away from the supply chain of this industry totally falling apart. Hopefully, knock on wood. Yeah, that doesn't happen again this year. I think we can all agree that would be delightful, right? The other thing is, I'm hearing absolutely no talk of, at least here in Michigan, because we have contacts with the people who organize the largest number of RV shows in Michigan, that we're not expecting COVID to be a primary reason for shutting down RV shows like it was last year. And man, there was a news headline that went tearing through a bunch of RV groups and forums that I haunt that had a bunch of people like, what? And the headline, probably to grab someone's attention, was portable RV generators have been banned. Well, yes and no. This was specific to the state of California. California has passed legislation that will affect the use of portable RV generators. But I don't tend to be the type that, like, I don't just read the headline and go, oh, wow, that's the whole story. I'm like, really? Like, that seems oddly targeted. Like, what is actually going on here? So I did some more digging, and if anyone has more information on this, please let me know. It sounds like this was a bill targeted largely against whatever, like lawn care businesses, actually, with all their, weed whips and mowers and stuff like that. State of California didn't, I guess, like the emissions ratings on those things, and put into place, and it was passed. This is happening there. A progressive ban of portable fuel burning engines, as I believe the way that was phrased. Now, that is unfortunately a fairly broad scope category, and lumped into that, unfortunately, by definition, were things like portable RV generators. Now, interestingly, so what this means for those lawn care businesses, if you care, is they are probably going to be forced to convert over to purely electric, and I don't know if anyone realizes the cost, the logistics, the cost of changing your entire equipment fleet like that for some of these places, and then the logistics of lugging around that much extra kind of like battery power. That's not an easy thing for some of that equipment. Neither here nor there. More RV related for those of us watching this here, is if it's a like a handheld or a portable generator, those appear to be becoming part of that ban. Interestingly, on board propane and diesel generators, say like if you have a propane generator in the belly of that fifth wheel, or a motorhome that has a diesel generator, those do not seem to be included in this bill. But, and this is, I think, a big one for a lot of RV people, especially boondocking motorhome people, if you have a built-in onboard gas generator, it does appear to be included in this ban, basically. But this may not be as bad for RV people as it sounds. I'm not a legal eagle. I don't fully understand all the verbiage and things like that in these, because they are very good at, these and thous and hitheruntos and blah, 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 and articles of incorporation or whatever. Anyway, you get the idea. But with my limited brain capacity, what I am understanding by reading this bill is it is only prohibiting the production and sale of these portable RV or portable fuel burning engines, as it were, within the state of California. From what I read and the way that I understand it, which does not mean that's how this is, mind you, any residents currently already in possession of something like a portable RV generator, gas, diesel, propane, doesn't matter, they should be fine. They should be able to continue to use their thing. It just sounds like those objects won't be able to be produced within the state of California anymore. Now, something that is totally unclear to me is, let's say a resident of the state of California goes across the state line and purchases a small fuel burning engine. Are they able to bring that back into the state and use it? Anyone who has any kind of clarity or information on that, I'd be very curious. But I think this actually opens up maybe a broader conversation as we see, an increase in solar development and things like that in RVs. Do we think this is the direction more things are going to go? Do we think that we're going to be moving more and more away from like propane systems and going more and more toward, a purely electric camping scenario? And are we willing to pay for that? Because I don't know that people realize, like, you could spend 10 grand on a solar package right now and still not be able to run a common air conditioner on an RV for, like, 8 hours to get you through the day. Not to mention overnight when you're not running it, you're not really exactly recharging the batteries. So I think it'll be good. Personally, I think it'll be good for us to continue development of solar and electric camping. But at the same time, that technology is currently very expensive. And like I said earlier, we saw rampant runaway pricing changes through the RV industry last year. And slapping additional thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on top of that, that's a tough prospect. And I know that there are some more energy efficient systems out there. There's mini splits, there's things like that that could certainly help. But my understanding of those kind of systems is the mass production of those is not to the point that they could just be swapped into the RV industry on the fly. So it's a larger, trickier conversation that is potentially being had there. But I'd also be curious, are you somebody who's been affected by this? Like I said, are you from out that direction? Do you have more insights? Because I'm just a stupid Michigan Midwestern boy over here. And this is what I've been able to gather by reading on the internet and just trying to connect the dots. That doesn't mean it's all right. But speaking of predictions, so looking forward through 22, what do I think is going to happen? First of all, pricing trends. I think if we're hopeful, we will be able to see pricing stability this year. But what I don't think is going to happen would be, at this point, probably a pipe dream. I don't think we're going to see pricing flatline. I don't think we're going to see it just stay plateaued at one level. Kind of like December, kind of like January. I think we're going to see smaller, more predictable incremental increases versus this last year. Every month we're like, holy cow, there's another huge chunk. Holy cow, there's another huge chunk right after that. And when you hear 2, 3, 5% price increases month after month, that doesn't mean 3 months of 5% price increases doesn't mean a 15% price increase. Those are compounding on top of one another. It's 5% on top of an additional 5%, and that starts getting out of hand really fast, which is what happened primarily in 21. I think that we'll see more of a static increase per month, as it were, where we'll see again, a couple $100 per month, as opposed to percentages that translate into thousands of dollars. Now, again, an increase is still an increase. That does not excite me. That does not excite you. I don't like that. I don't like hearing that at all. That is kind of what I am sort of expecting to happen. Also, in terms of inventory this year, I used this phrase almost 1 year ago to this date, and boy, did it turn out to not be true. Again, I ain't got it all figured out. But I kind of predicted that in terms of inventory, 2021 was going to be a Swiss cheese year, where your most, like if you look at inventory like a brick of cheese, you're going to have some stuff in stock, but kind of like right behind me, you got a couple holes here and there where the most popular models. The first one that pops in my head is the Cougar 22 MLS. It's just, we cannot get and keep that in stock. They're always pre-sold. We just always seem to be sold out of those. There are models like that they're just so overwhelmingly popular, they can't make enough of them to keep them in stock at dealer facilities right now. And they are actually producing more of those models than anything else and still can't keep up on them. So it's not like they're intentionally not building these things. But for the most part, like you're seeing, we do have stuff here. We do have stuff in stock, and there's still plenty of good opportunities for a lot of people. I think that is how 22 is going to go. Campground crowding is still a very real thing for those of us who are not more purely boondocking like me. I tend to park camp. When I go out, I like to have hookups, I like to have on-site sewer, all that stuff. I like easy, I just want my camping experience to be simple, fun, easy. I want to have my resources available when I push the button. That's my idea of relaxing, not having to think or worry about or do math and how long until I fill that gray tank and how much juice is in the batteries. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not criticizing anyone who does that. There's definitely a lure to just getting away from people. I think anyone who boondocks knows exactly what I mean. I think any parent who's ever locked themselves in the bathroom with an iPad for a few minutes of personal peace knows what I mean. Just me? No, I know it's not just me. Anyway, I think that will also continue to drive solar RV advancement, something that we talked about a few minutes ago. So there's a lot of factors that are kind of contributing to that. But along with campground crowding, is introduced a new challenge, I think, for RVers, or at least one that I haven't talked about previously, and that is an increase in campground pricing rates. I have heard a couple people say, like, man, my seasonal site went up however many dollars this year, and I kind of went, I got to looking into that. And I'm starting to see a trend where campground owners realize that they've just got backlogs and backlogs of people. And their rates have been quietly creeping up. And we've been so busy talking about furniture and metal skirting and generators that we haven't really noticed that happening a whole lot. Now, one of the hiccups with me is I don't get to camp as much as I would like. That's the catch-22 of living in the RV industry. You don't get a chance to get outside of it and do it much, like the roofer with a leaky roof, you know? So I would, if you have noticed that, if you're watching this, if you've noticed campground rates, seasonal rates going up, something like that, I've seen more and more places starting to introduce a system where, like, if you're out of state, there's a pricing surcharge, for lack of a better explanation, or something like that. I've noticed more and more things like that happening. If that kind of falls in line with what you've seen, I'd really, really like to know. Or is that just like a small little blip that, for whatever reason, is what I saw and doesn't really represent the whole picture, as it were? There will also be a lot of new RV parks cutting ribbons this year and opening up new campsites. But over this last year, the sale of new RVs has outpaced the number of new available campsites at a 10-to-1 ratio. So something like 600,000 new people entered the RV industry who weren't campers before, and only about 60,000 campsites were made in 21-ish. You know, more campsites, more campgrounds are definitely a good thing. And people go, well, why are more people just doing it? It is an agonizingly slow process building an RV park, like, from the ground up. The amount of permits we need just to remodel our showroom floor in an existing building and business is incredible. The amount of government agencies and oversights and hoops we have to jump through, and miscommunications and every other thing I don't want to get into because it's just going to make my blood boil. It's incredible. I can't even imagine what it takes to start that new from the ground up. You know, when you start digging in the ground, there's, like, EPA comes out. I mean, like, there's a lot of things that start happening. You know, you're talking wastewater, you're talking electricity. Like, an RV park it looks like a simple thing from the ground up, but the infrastructure of an RV park is a big, big deal. And it is a expensive and painstaking process to get one of those up and running. I certainly hope people are up to the task. Once again, I know myself well enough to know that I don't have the tolerance for that kind of stuff, and I am thankful for those that do. And one that could affect everybody in the country, basically, is what happens to fuel prices this year. Something I learned before I worked here, I was in logistics and trucking, freight line, and I really noticed that the price of fuel, directly, indirectly, whatever, ended up affecting the price of literally everything in the country. What I don't know that a lot of people realize is that whether it is a raw material, a mid-stage product, like a brake line that gets shipped to an auto manufacturer, that's a mid-stage product, or a final finished product like those My Buddy dolls I told you about earlier, every single thing in this country moves on a truck at one point or another. So fuel prices directly affect the cost of all of the things, without question. But more specific to the RV industry, been doing this a while. I started during the $4 gas era, $4 fuel or whatever you want to call it. So, you know, I've seen fuel prices go up and down, and I've seen how that changes and affects businesses and buyer patterns and things like that. What I've kind of noticed is that when fuel's under $3, people tend to be like, all right, road trip, wow, let's rock and roll, let's head across country. When fuel starts hitting that $3 plus mark, people start saying, okay, maybe we'll take one trip a year, big trip. Other than that, let's try to stay more local-ish, like within the tri-state area or something, as it were. And then when fuel starts hitting $4 and above, people start going, okay, we need to find a place to park this thing because I ain't going broke just to tow it. And short of that, are we sure this is what we want to do right now? Like those kind of seem to be the break points that I've observed over the years. I don't know what's going to happen to fuel prices this year. There's some folks predicting it'll hit $4 by summertime. There's some folks saying, no, it's not, it's going to go down. I don't know. And the one thing I've noticed is it seems that like the refiner, like, oh, we had to shut a refinery down, so the costs had to go up of the fuel per barrel imported into the country. Or, well, we opened a new refinery, but that required new staffing, so the cost per barrel had to go. It always seems like whether they open or close it, the cost per barrel has to go up. You guys ever notice that? But hey, this is all just like what one guy hears and thinks about some of this stuff. I would love to hear from all of you good people. You know, anything that you'd like to chime in on this, let me know. I'd love to kind of continue the conversation, or if you have some extra information I missed or got wrong, please let me know. I don't care if I got something wrong. I want to know because I want to make sure we get the good information out. And again, I hope it brings some peace of mind to some folks to see that, yes, again, these videos will be continuing. The name changed. We still got that same feel going on the inside here. We're going to keep this coming. We're going to keep the transparency and all the information coming. If you appreciate this, leave us a little comment. Let us know. Hit the like button, which costs you nothing, but it does help kind of spread the message a little bit. And if you're new to us, make sure you hit that subscribe button. About once a month or so, put out a news update like this, and we have just a ton of RV reviews that come out all the time, as well as you know, regular tips, tricks, information, things like that. We'd love to have you on the next one. So very you may have noticed I don't edit my videos a lot. I don't know where my brain was going. It went 3 directions at once, and what came out of my mouth was what you just saw. So very so thank you as always. I'm tired. I got the tired giggles. I gotta quit. So take care, stay safe, have fun, and happy camping, everyone.